Here's everything you need to know about using ChatGPT in 3 minutes to be competent. I'm Parker X. I led a product team at a startup that did $50 million before we exited. After that, I chased the Silicon Valley unicorn status for 3 years until pivoting to going all in on AI. The whole point of this channel is to just cut the fluff and get into what actually works for businesses. So on the left, we have ChatGPT. On the right, we have our little curriculum. So first of all, when you jump in, we're on a paid version of this. You'll see a couple things. There's GPTs. I wouldn't worry about using these. They're kind of a flop, but if you do click on it, you'll see a bunch of different ones that people have made. And some of them are helpful, but for the most part, not great. Instead, you'd use a project. The project is a collection of different files that you've uploaded to train ChatGPT on, as well as a place to make custom instructions. So if I were writing an email to my boss trying to get a raise, I might put a project together with all the files of all the work that I've done, all the projects that warrant why I should get that raise, as well as some custom instructions. I can go into one in here just to show you where I have a storytelling to blog custom project. And then here I have a set of instructions that it needs to follow so that I can just talk to this project and it'll take a story that I tell and then turn it into a blog. So that's that. On the prompts, this is what you actually tell the computer. It's what you write. And the more information, the better. So when you write a message, that's a prompt. And I want to kind of explain like the different levels of it. So the different levels might be, hey, write me an email to my boss about why I need a raise. Well, guess what? This thing doesn't know a whole lot about you. So the more information you can give, the better. Level 2 might look like I'm a mid-level marketer working at X company doing Y daily tasks. You'd fill that stuff in, obviously. And I'm writing to my boss to get a raise. This is why I think I need the raise. And then you tell a little bit more. Level 3 would be all of that plus the examples of the work. You might do that in a project. And then level 4 would be perhaps adding examples of persuasive writing and examples of successful emails that you might have pulled off Reddit or something. So there's a trend where basically the more information you provide, the better. And that's how a prompt will work. Now, there's two different types of models. A model is basically kind of the engine or the brain behind the AI. And so when you open up a new chat, you'll see all these things, right? Now, the ones with the GPT in front of them, you can basically just split them into chat models and chain of thought models. Chain of thought models take longer. They're thinking. It's a chain of thoughts that it's having. And it'll take a bit longer, but it's for advanced reasoning. I always go with O1. So if you're doing something that is complex that you want it to think a lot about, then you use O1. Chat models are the ping-ponging back and forth real quick. You'd probably use O3 Mini or GPT-4o. And for the purposes of this video, that pretty much covers it. But yeah, you always want to basically provide more than you'd think when you're talking to these. So next up, we have a couple tools. So we have search, which you'll notice that it's not available on the chain of thought models. But if I did a search with a chat model, you can think of it as like a version of Google. It's not very good. I don't recommend using this. Just use Google. When it comes to deep research, this is actually really good at going out. And if you're writing a research paper and you wanted a ton of information on here about links, supportive evidence, research, it would go out and do that. So that's what you'd use deep research for, and it would come back with all the links and a ton of information. Other tools that are in here, image, you can generate images with this. They look kind of cartoony, but it does the job. And then a canvas would be where it tags this tool called Canvas, where it will open up a document editor right next to it. So lastly, I want to just quickly touch on the Mac app. So the shining factor of the Mac app is the fact that it has what's called a companion. So if you notice, this thing at the bottom just opened, and that's the companion. So it's tied to a hotkey, and then I can ask questions. So it's really, so I never lose context of what I'm working on. I can just bring it up. So if I did have, let's say, draft a email to my boss, I'm a mid-level marketing person and I want to ask for a raise. I've done a lot of good work that has generated a lot of profit. Make a draft for that. So I'd send that off. And now I'm going to get an example that I can then run a prompt on. So I'd get this, it's just okay. And then I can grab the example. And as you can see, because it wasn't very specific, it's like super wordy. So you'd never want this. So then I would use a snippet. You're always going to want to use these snippets, and I'll put them in the description. But I do GPT concise, and it will have this text replacement. And then I can paste the response that I got in. And now it'll come back with a bunch of different variations. So now I get variation 1 is direct and professional, kind of chops it down a little bit. Variation 2 is going to be warm and appreciative. And then I think variation 3 is crisp and authoritative, but I'm not sure. We'll see in a second. Confident and results focused. Okay, cool. So that's kind of the beauty of the companion. Now, if I popped this button, it would open up the Mac app. But again, I don't recommend it for using it day to day. Like if you're actually doing a lot of work in a dedicated focus session, then use the actual app. And besides the companion part, there is this where it can work with the different apps. So you can connect it and it'll actually have context of what's on screen. Some other stuff that most people don't know actually. So if you just start typing in, let's say if I open a new chat, I'm going to open the companion. No, I want a new one. And I start typing Chrome. It'll start giving me auto suggestions on what I want to write. Sometimes it'll show the app too. So if it's an app that doesn't technically work with, it'll show that. But then you can click it, it'll take a screenshot of what's on the screen. I know we ran a little bit over, but I hope that's a good starting point for your journey with ChatGPT. If you want to learn more about it, there's a masterclass on my channel and you can learn a whole bunch on there. Until next time.